What I actually want to talk about here is a really cool tool that we're using for a lot of buyers right now to determine what is the best strategy. Hey everyone, it's Kenton Becker, American Pacific Mortgage. I am here again with another weekly video tip for you. Now, in a lot of these weekly tips, I will kind of pre-plan out what I maybe am going to talk about in the coming weeks or months or whatever it may be. And I kind of knew that the Federal Reserve was going to be making an announcement to see if they were going to increase interest rates again. And sure enough, last week, they did increase the interest rate another 75 basis points. Again, I feel kind of like a broken record on this sometimes, that whatever the Federal Reserve does in increasing their interest rates does not have a direct impact on mortgage rates. Maybe indirectly it does. Right now, we're actually seeing the reverse effect, where when the Federal Reserve increases their interest rates, it's actually causing mortgage rates to go down. Now, I've kind of talked to you many times on these weekly tips about the thing that causes mortgage rates to go up the most is actually inflation. What the Federal Reserve is doing with increasing their interest rates is to fight inflation. So the market generally looks at what the Federal Reserve is doing, increasing their interest rates, as a positive thing for mortgage interest rates. That's why sometimes we will actually see mortgage rates go down in the coming days after the Federal Reserve has increased their rate. So enough on that topic. I have talked about interest rates, what the Fed's doing, too much. What I actually want to talk about here is a really cool tool that we're using for a lot of buyers right now to determine what is the best strategy if the seller is motivated to get the best deal for the house. Because there's a few different strategies that you can look at. For example, if the seller is motivated, you could ask the seller to do a price reduction. Maybe they would just reduce the price of the house, give you a little bit better deal. Or another thing you could do is ask the seller to cover closing costs, or more specifically, to help you buy down your interest rate, maybe give you a little relief on your interest rate. And then the other strategy that we have talked about on this channel is the 2-1 buy down strategy. This is where the seller pays some cost to buy your interest rate down 2% the first year, 1% the second year, and then it goes to your regular rate. But many times I have buyers that go, okay, these are all great strategies with a motivated seller, but which one should I choose? Which one makes the most sense for me? And I now have a really cool calculator that I want to share with you. So I'm going to show you here on the screen. All right, so now you can actually see my screen, and I'm going to show you this really cool tool that's called Seller Contributions. Now, what this does is it allows me as a loan officer to compare a few options for my buyers. So here's what I want to show you. I've already put in some information here to just make this a little bit quicker. I put it a $500,000 home. I already plugged in the estimated taxes, the home insurance, all of that. I also put in loan information. So on a $500,000 home, we're just going to say 10% down or $50,000 down. We'll say the interest rate is 7% and closing costs are, let's just say, about $10,000. Now, the three options that I'm going to compare is to do a permanent buy down. This is where the seller would provide some money to actually buy down permanently your interest rate. Then I'm going to show the topic we've talked about before, the 2-1 buy down. And then finally, I'm going to show just what if the seller gave me that same amount of money, but they just took it off the house of the price, called a price break discount. Okay, here's the results that we see. Again, on a $500,000 home, we can get some information here. Now, the cost to the seller is the same no matter what. If they just drop the price of the house, if they give us a permanent buy down, or if they give us the temporary buy down, the cost is the same at $11,250. Now, again, keep in mind that your negotiations could go any way with the seller. Maybe you can get $20,000 from the seller. I don't know what it is. Depends on how motivated they are. But just for this example, we're going to say $11,250. Okay, so what we see in this graph is that this one right over here, this light green color, is the price break. Now, what this is saying is that if you just ask for a discount on the price of the house, it actually has the least benefit for you in terms of your overall savings over, now this is showing a 4-year period, but let's just even bump this up to 5 years. Really doesn't matter. But over a 5-year period, maybe the first 4 months or so, having a price break would be beneficial to you because you get a little discount off the price and the loan amount and off your down payment. But really, when you start getting into this next section here, which goes all the way up to about 3.5 years, that's going to be the temporary buy down. Now, why is that a benefit to you within those first 3.5 years? Well, it's simple. The first year, your interest rate's 2% lower. The second year, your interest rate's 1% lower. So of course, those first 3 years or so, you're going to have a massive savings in those buy down numbers. But here's the thing. If you really start putting the slider all the way out to 10 years, now you're going to see where this one, which is the permanent buy down, really starts to be the better option for you. And again, it makes sense because you are permanently buying down that interest rate, and that's going to help you in the long term. Now, this would really be a question that I would ask the buyer. What do you think that interest rates are going to do in the future? If you are one to believe that interest rates are going to stay high in the future, maybe in the 6s or 7s or possibly even higher than this, then I would say that you're better off going with what you're comfortable with and doing the permanent buy down, because in the long term, it's actually going to save you quite a bit more. Now, if you're of the mindset kind of like I am, that I think that interest rates are actually going to come down in the next year or two, then the temporary buy down is probably going to be the better option. Because again, looking at this graph, that first 3 years is really going to provide you the biggest savings. If I bring this year slider back to only 3 years, let's just say the first 3 years, I can see down here, this compares permanent, temporary, and the price break. I can actually see that if we were just to go with the permanent option, it would end up costing us a little bit more. And the reason why is because that temporary buy down did lower the interest rate quite a bit more than just that smaller permanent buy down percentage. Again, temporary buy down gives us 2% off that initial rate. So that's a huge savings. But again, that's just the first 3 years. Comparing that to the price break, just getting the $11,000 off the price of the house, really not a savings for us. So this really provides us some great ways to compare and actually show a breakdown for our buyers of what makes the most sense, depending on how long they think they might be in the home, or even more importantly, how long they might think that they'll be in that loan. If you think you'll refinance in the next 2 to 3 years, you probably want to go with the temporary buy down from a motivated seller. But if you think you're going to be in that loan for much longer, 4, 5, 6 years, then you're definitely going to want to go with the permanent buy down, because that's actually going to have the better savings for you. So really cool tool that we can lay out for our buyers to really help them make an informed decision moving forward. And when we have so many opportunities out there, so many motivated sellers to work with, looking at these numbers and comparing them side by side of, hey, the seller's willing to give me $15,000 or $10,000 or $20,000. Now, what do I do with it? Well, this will allow us to really compare it out and see what the best option for you might be. So if you have any questions on this, or you want me to run this calculator for you, I can definitely do that. Let me know. I'm happy to help on it. Thanks so much for joining me this week. Have a great week.